Greetings, I'm Steve Cook, and I have your recap for the August 8th, 2023 meeting. We started the meeting at 5:30, we finished right at 7 o'clock. It was a pretty quick meeting, a pretty short agenda. We started off with a call to order by Chair Delakia, and then no public comment, and our very first issue was the board report, the board chair report. Chair Barnes Delakia shared some information about a meeting she went to with OSBA and the information that she garnered from that meeting. Some information about abbreviated day legislation that's come out this year, along with a few other things. Just also mentioned that that the board's getting a lot of outreach from the community on a couple of things. One, we have some HR staffing issues that are getting some fairly significant attention. Some board members are getting contacted about those. She shared that. Then she also shared some information about a lot of parental outreach on the circumstances around Highland Elementary School. And she spent a fairly significant amount of time talking about how the board's role and how that's all happened and the efforts that they're putting out to listen to folks and to hear them, and that it can be both true that what kids and staff went through was tough, but also that that staff can do a fantastic job at their new assignments. And so she wanted to draw special attention to that. And then after that was the superintendent's report. I had three things I wanted to share. The first one was the work that this summer that has happened around the climate and culture task force, and how they've worked very hard in their 6 or 7 meetings over 6 months to get really dialed in on one specific thing, and that was working through some consistent set of expectations for both proactively how we're going to expect kids to act and be in our schools, and then secondarily, if there are student behaviors that need addressed by staff and adults, what that's going to look like, how that's going to be recorded, how it's going to be communicated, what the feedback loops are between administrators and staff, and perhaps administrators or staff and parents and families and the student, and just getting dialed in around that work. A lot of consistency kind of language around that. Really excited about the work of that task force, really proud of the efforts they've put in. They started off with a lot of big expectations and many broad things that they wanted to tackle, and to get it down to this number one priority was a really big success for that group. The second thing I wanted to talk about today was the second day of our leadership launch for our administrative team. About 120 administrators, building administrators and district and department administrators meeting together over 2 days to go through kind of our goals for the year and the direction that we want to go. A lot of positive feedback on that. Excited about that work, and just shared a little bit about that. The third thing I wanted to share about was the work of the Student Voice Council today. We actually invited members of that committee and the sponsor, Jackie Wilson, to come up, speak a little bit with the board about how they're looking to get engaged and involved this year. Lots of great, it's always good to hear from our students, and they did a fantastic job of sharing what their hopes and dreams are for this year and their role in interacting with district administration and our board. Consent agenda passed with no questions. Also, consent for information agenda was noticed. One thing to clarify on that, one policy is just administrative policy. It's administrative policy KK. It had a line of that was incorrect, and we deleted that line and we noticed it. We didn't send it out for public review, but we are calling attention to it because it was out of alignment with how we're administering the policy, and we weren't administering that. And so we shared that with the board. And since that's different procedurally than the way it was done before, Chair Barnes Delakia wanted to make sure she understood why, and that was, I clarified that with just the fact that we wanted this ready to go. We aren't administering it the way that that sentence was written, so we deleted that sentence, and to have that done and ready to go for the beginning of school. And then the highlight of the night was the report that we had from Doug Pigman, our Executive Director of Facilities, and BBT, our architecture firm that is helping us go through the redesign and rebuild of Bend High School. That presentation was a lot of looking at preliminary photos and looking at how we're going to try to use the 29 acres that Bend High sits on. And remember that a high school typically is built on 50 acres. And so how do we utilize that space best when we are rebuilding Bend High? And to be able to have a school while we're doing construction and building this new high school means you have to balance a lot of competing needs. And so 3 phases that'll probably take place over 5 years to get that all completed, and making sure that we are meeting the expectations of the community with regards to design hopes and what our students and staff and community members are telling us about what they want for Bend High. And so a lot of good dialogue around it. Still very preliminary, very first kind of show to the board on where things are. We're about half the way towards design. And as you know, with design comes cost expectations. And so going from about 50% design to 100% designed is where we're going to start to find out where we are budgetarily. And so lots of new information to come on that as we start to dial in on that design work. And we'll hear more from Doug and BBT and Renee, the lead architect on this project, as we get closer to that. And then lastly, just sharing some of the board comments tonight. Lots of kudos. Shirley, Director Olson was at the administrative kickoff, and she had lots of good things to say about our administrative team and how that meeting was facilitated. Director Fisher wanted to share her appreciation of the work of the task force and the Student Voice Committee. And then just a real nice, kind shout out from our chair, Melissa Barnes-Delakia, on the service and retirement of our executive director of elementary school, Skip Offenhauser, and gave him a retirement gift and acknowledged his service, and acknowledged that we're likely to see him around for a little while longer as he kind of works on in certain aspects of the district, trying to help us finish up a few goals. That's it for the recap of the August 8th meeting. Our next meeting is August 22nd. The board will be doing a retreat to help get tightened up on goals and strategies for the year. We'll be presenting some things with them and the working agreements that they have with one another and with administration. Our next business meeting is on September 12th, 5:30, right here at this location. That's it. I'm Steve Cook. Have a great night. We'll see you soon.